Hi, this is Charlie. After 13 years as a stockbroker, I gotta say, today's economy feels like trying to find a decent bagel outside New York. Something just doesn't add up. Wall Street is hitting record highs, with stock market indexes climbing faster than a cat up a tree, and investment firms reporting returns that would make a lottery winner jealous.
It's astonishing to see how investment firms are capitalizing on the current market conditions, raking in gains like squirrels hoarding nuts for winter, quarter after quarter.
Meanwhile, Main Street, symbolizing small businesses and the everyday financial realities of average individuals and families, is struggling under the weight of skyrocketing costs. It's like trying to run a marathon with a fridge on your back.
The prices of goods and services, rent, and even utilities are making it harder for small businesses to survive and households to manage. It's like trying to keep a leaky boat afloat with a teaspoon. How can Wall Street be flourishing when so many on Main Street are just trying to stay afloat? It's like watching a gourmet feast while you're stuck with instant noodles.
The disconnect a system-divided Wall Street and Main Street have always represented two very different facets of the economy. But today, the gap between them seems wider than ever. It's like comparing a penthouse to a basement studio.
Wall Street thrives on stock market gains, corporate profits, and global capital flows. It's a world where the phrase, "money never sleeps," is taken quite literally. Investors can see massive returns by capitalizing on financial opportunities, often driven by economic policies that favor large corporations and financial institutions. It's like having a cheat code for the economy.
On the flip side, Main Street is grounded in the real economy, the local businesses, families and workers who depend on steady income and rising wages to make ends meet. Think of it as the real-world level of the economic game. But Main Street is facing a different reality. It's like trying to win a marathon with a sprained ankle.
Inflation, labor shortages, and the rising cost of materials and services are squeezing small businesses and households. It's like trying to stretch a dollar into a mile. They don't have the luxury of moving their money in and out of investments with the click of a button like Wall Street does. It's like comparing a dial-up connection to fiber optic internet. For them, cash flow is often tight and profits are slim. It's like trying to squeeze water from a stone.
The conflict, confidence, and crisis. The big question is, how can Main Street have any confidence in the future when Wall Street is reaching new highs, but they're struggling to survive? It's like watching your neighbor throw a lavish party while you're rationing instant noodles.
Many small businesses feel abandoned by the financial system, especially after recent crises like the COVID-19 pandemic, where big corporations often had more resources and access to government aid than small, locally owned companies. It's like being in a three-legged race with a sprinter.
The rising cost of living is also hitting families hard. It's like trying to fill a bathtub with a teaspoon. How can they feel secure when wages aren't keeping up with inflation, and everyday necessities are becoming increasingly expensive? It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up.
Meanwhile, those invested in the stock market, mainly wealthier individuals, are seeing their portfolios grow. It's like they're playing Monopoly with real money. It's no wonder people on Main Street are frustrated. It's like being stuck in traffic while watching others zoom by in the carpool lane. To make matters worse, many of the gains on Wall Street are disconnected from the real economy. It's like a magic trick where the rabbit disappears, but you're left holding the hat.
Stock buybacks, corporate tax cuts, and low interest rate environments have inflated asset prices, while real wage growth has remained stagnant. It's like inflating a balloon that's already full.
The wealth gap is growing, and Main Street feels left behind. It's like being in a marathon where the finish line keeps moving further away.
The payoff, addressing the imbalance. No, this isn't a new reality show. But this isn't just about venting frustration. There's an opportunity here. And no, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Recognizing this disparity is the first step toward creating a system that benefits both Wall Street and Main Street. Think of it as a financial peace treaty.
If we want to bridge the gap, we need policies and practices that prioritize long-term economic health over short-term stock market gains. Yes, even if it means fewer yacht parties. Imagine an economy where small businesses had the same access to financial resources and incentives that large corporations enjoy. No more David versus Goliath scenarios.
where the focus shifts from rewarding investors to supporting sustainable growth, innovation, and local economy. Because who needs another Wall Street sequel? This would rebuild the trust and confidence that Main Street desperately needs. And maybe even bring back the mom and pop shops. Action steps. What can be done? Let's roll up our sleeves and get to work.
Support local economies. One way to start closing the gap is by encouraging people to support local businesses. Think of it as giving your neighbor a high five with your wallet. This keeps money circulating within the community, like a never-ending game of Monopoly, but everyone wins and gives small enterprises a better chance to succeed. Because who doesn't love a good underdog story?
Government policies. Governments need to focus more on Main Street. It's time to give the little guy a break. Policies that reduce the tax burden on small businesses, increase access to capital, and address income inequality are vital. Because let's face it, trickle-down economics is more like a leaky faucet.
For example, creating low-interest loan programs for small businesses and offering tax credits for businesses that hire locally can make a difference. It's like giving a gold star for doing the right thing.
Corporate accountability. Wall Street needs to be held accountable for practices that prioritize shareholder value at the expense of broader economic health. Time to put the account back in accountability. Greater regulation around corporate buybacks and more incentives for companies to invest in wages and job creation rather than stock price inflation are steps in the right direction. Because stock prices don't pay the rent.
Educate and advocate. On an individual level, educating people about financial literacy and advocacy can empower them to make smarter decisions with their money, whether that's through investing, supporting local businesses, or pushing for policy changes. Knowledge is power, and in this case, it's also a pretty good investment.
In conclusion, the disparity between Wall Street and Main Street doesn't have to be as permanent as a New York City pothole. By recognizing the problem and taking action, there's a path forward where both sides can prosper, like finding a cab during rush hour. For Main Street to have confidence again, the economy must shift to prioritize the real, everyday experiences of people, not just the financial returns of the wealthy few. Subscribe and follow, because even Wall Street could use a little Main Street charm.